Vlad the Impaler is remembered for his cruelty. 20,000 impaled corpses. Forests of the dead. A man who dipped bread in blood. But the women in his life are almost never mentioned. He had 2 wives. Both died tragically. One threw herself from a castle tower. The other disappeared from history without explanation. Their stories reveal a different side of Vlad, not the monster, but the man who lost everything. Vlad's first wife's name is unknown. Historical records don't mention it. She was likely a Wallachian noblewoman, married to Vlad for political alliance sometime in the 1450s. She lived with him at Poenari Castle, his fortress high in the Carpathian Mountains. It was a remote, defensible position, but also isolated and dark. According to Romanian legend, during the Ottoman invasion of 1462, a servant in Poenari Castle was bribed or threatened by the Ottomans. He shot an arrow through a window with a message attached. The message warned that the Ottoman army was approaching and that Vlad should flee immediately. Vlad's wife read the message. She knew what capture by the Ottomans meant. Wallachian royalty taken alive would be tortured publicly, paraded through Constantinople as trophies, and likely executed in humiliating ways. Women faced even worse: enslavement, assault, forced conversion. She made a choice. Rather than wait for the Ottomans to arrive, she climbed to the highest tower of Poenari Castle and threw herself out the window. She fell into the Argeș River below. Her body was never recovered. The river is still called the Princess River, Râul Doamnei, in her memory. Local legends say her ghost haunts the castle ruins, searching for Vlad, unable to rest. But here's what most retellings leave out. Vlad was not at the castle when she died. He was leading a guerrilla campaign against the Ottoman army miles away. By the time he returned, she was gone. Some historians believe this is what broke him completely. He had already lost his father, his brother, and his throne multiple times. Now he lost the one person who had stayed with him through it all. Vlad was forced to flee to Hungary, where he was imprisoned by Matthias Corvinus, the Hungarian king, who was supposed to be his ally. Vlad spent 12 years in captivity, again. First as a child hostage to the Ottomans, now as an adult prisoner of the Hungarians. During those 12 years, Vlad remarried. His second wife was Ilona Szilágyi, also called Justina. She was a Hungarian noblewoman and a cousin of King Matthias Corvinus. The marriage was political, a condition of Vlad's release and a way to tie him to Hungarian interests. Ilona gave Vlad 2 sons, Minia and Vlad. But their marriage was complicated. Vlad was a broken man. He had been imprisoned, betrayed, and defeated. He was no longer the terrifying warlord who had stopped an Ottoman invasion. He was a political tool. In 1476, Vlad was finally released and given a chance to reclaim the throne of Wallachia. He left Ilona and their sons in Hungary and marched back to his homeland with a small army. He ruled for only 2 months before he was killed in battle against the Ottomans in December 1476. His body was decapitated, and his head was sent to Sultan Mehmed as proof of his death. Ilona never saw him again. After Vlad's death, Ilona raised their 2 sons alone in Hungary. She never remarried. Some sources suggest she feared Vlad even in life, that their marriage was cold and distant. Others say she mourned him. The truth is unclear because historical records about her are sparse. What is known is that their son Minia eventually became ruler of Wallachia in 1497, continuing his father's brutal legacy. He was called Minia the Evil. He ruled through terror just like Vlad, using impalement as his preferred method of execution. He was assassinated in 1510. Ilona's fate is unknown. She disappears from historical records after Vlad's death. No death date. No burial site. No mention in Hungarian court documents. She simply vanishes from history as if she never existed. This erasure is common for women in medieval history. Unless they were queens or saints, their lives were not considered worth recording. Vlad's first wife doesn't even have a name in the historical record. Ilona has a name but no story beyond being Vlad's widow and the mother of his sons. But their absence tells its own story. Both women were tied to a man who became a monster. One chose death over capture. The other lived in the shadow of his legend and was forgotten by history. Neither had power. Neither had choice. They were political pieces in a world of violent men. Bram Stoker's Dracula includes a tragic love story, Dracula mourning his lost love, Elisabetta, who dies believing he was killed in battle. That story is fiction. But it's rooted in the real tragedy of Vlad's first wife, who died alone in a castle tower while he was fighting a war he couldn't win. The women in Vlad's life didn't turn him into a monster. He was already that. But their deaths, one by suicide, one erased by history, show the cost of living in the orbit of a man like Vlad the Impaler. Power, terror, and violence consumed everything around him, including the people who loved him.